Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. I remember last year I had the good fortune to address the InvokED, I believe 3.0 it was at that time. It was at the Indian Institute of Science, and we had I would say, much more smaller stage as compared to today. It was a much smaller audience as well, as I could compare from last time to here. And I've had the good fortune of interacting with Shikshagraha, good people who are doing all the work in the various collective institutions that have made up this forum. And I think all the advancements that have been made over the last year has led to this much larger stage, this much larger audience, and I think a much larger outreach. And I was had the good fortune to have even part of that outreach in the build up to this event come to our doorstep in Mysore while they were here in the build up to this event. So I'm very glad for all the advancements that have been made. My many congratulations to all of you on achieving this milestone for the fourth time, bringing together all of us who are trying to make a change via our various non-profit organizations in the education sphere towards this idea of collective action and collectively willing all of us towards this unified goal of bettering our education system in India. So my congratulations to all of you here today. Today is also International Women's Day. I say this not out of any modern requirement of needing to in any which way certify the necessity for women's leadership in our society, but really from our own family's experience. It wouldn't be wrong to say if today my family exists in the way we are and have the goodwill of the people of Karnataka to the extent we have, it is because of the women leadership we've had in our family. From Rani Lakshmani, who stood against the forces of Tipu or Hyder Ali in a time where essentially our family was thrown out of Sriramkotna and eventually found in a small hut on the side in Mysore, in a completely devastated Mysore, to restructuring the family, to ensuring that the future, that was Krishnagoti III, had all the right means of ruling from a cultural standpoint, from what was at that time modern ideas, such as ensuring that the populace at large had all of the facilities they required because of the four wars that had happened before had completely decimated the land, towards ensuring that they are building towards a greater cause. If singularly anyone enshrined that principle into it, it was Rani Lakshmani. And if any one event I could share today was the act of her having the vaccines at the time, the smallpox. I know we've all just come through this COVID pandemic, but at the time there was a similar epidemic called the smallpox vaccine, and there was a lot of hesitation locally in taking the vaccine. And she at that time ensured that her own daughter-in-law stood in front of the crowds, in front of the palace in Mysore, and took the vaccine at the time to show that there is no fear or hesitancy towards this medicine, and in fact it will be beneficial for all. So she set the tone towards tradition and modernity, and that was continued all the way towards Vanivila Samidana, whose time, of course, we had the previous InvokED at the institution which she is most remembered for, which is the Indian Institute of Science, which was done in her time by dividing the Bangalore Palace estate. And she too set up pretty much the seeds for what would have been the glory days of Mysore. So on this day and on this days when we are celebrating the necessity for education, I think these two women from my family who played very pivotal roles in shaping the men who came after them and the policies they enshrined towards making that model state of Mysore, I thought it apt to remember today. With that, I'm thanking you for this opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, last time the venue set the agenda for the day, we spoke about how in creating the Indian Institute of Science, in creating an institution of everlasting value, we essentially ensured that there was everlasting, in fact, service towards society. And that agenda remains true today. The central theme of InvokED, Shikshagraha, and all the institutions has been the idea of collective action. The idea that all of us coming together as one will ensure that we reach better outcomes and faster outcomes and outcomes that stay. The issue at large with organizations that are working for societal good is that we do not have a unique binding factor of societal profit that needs to bring us all together. Invariably, businesses, even our startups, the famous unicorns that we all laud all the time, have the unique agenda of unifying them with an actual business profit. Societally, of course, with us all working not for profit, we need a unifying goal, and I think within the idea of social profit, we must find our answer. Society's problems, in fact, with the coming of modern technology, the coming of all the modern advancements, are adequate day by day. We have the exposure that's coming of local small villages itself being exposed to global culture, global identity. Well, that brings with it a huge advantage of knowledge source. It also, within human nature, this is always the case, brings all the negative side effects as well, which invariably our people fall into that trap as well. I've had the good fortune, of course, over the last year where you have grown to tremendous heights, to have the good fortune of being elected by the people of Maharashtra and Badagu, serve as a parliamentarian as well. And in that good fortune, I've been able to experience perhaps further at a grassroots level real cause and real issues that plague them. Previously, of course, the approach would be either through the palace or via the various educational institutions or not-for-profit cycling. It would purely be overall a positive interaction wherein some resource being brought by us would be benefiting them. Now, of course, as a politician, you understand the real world issues that you as a government are trying to fix and the real world challenges of where NGOs need to fill in for us in order to achieve this change. This idea of societal profit is where I think we can bind each other up. Because if eventually same motivation that I have as a politician or in trying to achieve towards ensuring that I have a strong political career is the same change that you are rooting for as a not-for-profit. We fill in, I think, each other's gaps the best way. The end of the day, I'm looking to translate everything to votes. You are looking to translate everything towards societal good. And the outcome remains the same. If I have done societal good, I will like to vote as well. And so in that, I think we have this unique binding factor in which we can work towards and set up a model for, in fact, all politicians going forward. And I think this is what we should really work towards going forward. Government, of course, of its own nature, has a bad name. No doubt we've added to it tremendously ourselves by our own actions. But I think in the future, if we are to change that perspective and understand that politics is also a positive journey and a positive means of career here for you to attain positive outcomes, it will have to be by not-for-profits coming together with the politicians to build effective and constituencies. My own constituency of Mysore is very varied. The solutions I have to give in Mysore city aren't the same I have to give in the rural part of Mysore. The solutions I have to give in rural part of Mysore are by no means similar to the solutions I require in Badagu. All of these areas are vastly different in their aspirations, vastly different in their cultural norms, and vastly different, of course, in their own aspirations for the future. The rural part wants to come to the city, the people of Kodak want to tell their tremendous history, and the people of Mysore are trying to get back to the rural side. So this conundrum that we exist in is what we need to solve each part of the puzzle going forward. NGOs are heavily localized, which means that they can work within a local population. For me to get from one edge of my constituency to the other itself takes 4.5 hours. So getting localized solutions for each of these issues is where we have the most trouble invariably. And I think our hands-on deck with number of NGOs in Mysore now, what has helped us essentially is building a framework for the local issues. The act of certain specific facilities, like which is in Piriyapatna or Hunsur in my own constituency, the solutions there for even other facilities of government aren't the same that are the solutions in Mysore city. And I think this is where the NGOs step in. If we can all collectively will together towards solving what is localized issues, I think that is where you can add value towards a representative who plays a role in a much larger part of the constituency. And I think this is where collective action has its biggest advantage for people like me and for NGOs as well in forming local alliances. Last time I was here, we also spoke about the idea of competitiveness and how it is essentially an advantage for us to be completely as NGOs as well. But at the end of the day, certain larger aspects, it's always better to be on the same page. India is vast and diverse as it is. There is space for everyone to work in their own silos, in their own spheres. And I think when it comes towards helping a governmental organization or an NGO going forward, I think an understanding such as what we get in such a forum towards where we are all jointly working and where we can all add value to each other is of tremendous sight when we go forward. And last time also we said that the discussion has to be inside the four walls of a room, and whatever we say outside should be one voice, and that stands as much true today as it was 1 year ago, despite all of the amount of experience that we've all had over this course of this 1 year. Ladies and gentlemen, India is uniquely positioned now to take over, given the geopolitical factors, given the various advancements that we've been making, given world over the many changes that have come. We have the advantage of youth, we have the advantage of language, we have the advantage of talent. World over, India is being recognized as one of the most advanced societies in terms of taking advantage of various facilities given to them. In this viewpoint, I think India needs to correctly position itself, understanding its grassroots strengths and, of course, global trends as well. We need to recognize the fact that we have come up from a very ancient culture. We have managed to conserve that culture despite the vicissitudes of time for eons, if not thousands and thousands of years. And if we are to build the Shresth Bharat or the Viksit Bharat that we are all envisioning, it has to be on that basis of that ancient tradition or that ancient culture, because in that lies our true identity and our true principles that the world over we need to share. Alongside that, of course, India's positioning, understanding global trends, needs to percolate down to the last person in India. Whatever the globe dictates will be what we need to position ourselves to take advantage of. This idea of grassroots strengths and also positioning ourselves towards taking advantage of global trends is where the educational sector needs to take advantage of and essentially pass on that skilling, that education towards our youth. I know InvokED, Shikshagraha and all the institutions here work a lot on changing curriculum, in changing the means in which we are learning. And I think what India requires no more is any specific system of coming either from the West or from the East, but requires its own understanding and its own means of working forward, which has to be essentially the Swadeshi system, which our forefathers enshrined for India. Whether it's our economy or whether it's our education system or our own approach to whatever facilities we are needing, it has to be a uniquely Indian approach and a uniquely Swadeshi approach. And I think within these few spheres of working, we will be able to achieve what our global identity and our global aspiration is as a country going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we have many great panels here today at InvokED. The Shikshagraha Utsav that is happening here, the many school children that are going to come, the events that are going to happen are going to enthrall us all, and the outcomes that we create from today and the partnerships that we create from the various discussions that happen today will allow us to build a much more concrete future for India going forward. I look upon all of you to, again, come together in this idea of collective action. It has benefited us tremendously in Mysore. The many panels that have been organized there, the many institutions and the many not-for-profits that have come to Mysore have added tremendous value towards empowering Mysore and towards ensuring Mysore is building a better future for itself and within the constituency of Mysore and Kodagu as well. And I hope that that happens for the entirety of our state and country as well. Lastly, my invite is, of course, now that you all have grown to much more stature, we continue to do this at many more stages, and I hope that you all will find yourselves in Mysore at a time soon enough, and perhaps InvokED 5.0 is hosted there in the future as well. Aspirations of us as a country has been always very high. We have a unique opportunity within this Amrit Kal to see it done for the future generations, and the tone we set in the coming 23 years towards 2047 is essentially going to be the basis for the India for the next 100 years. If we create a good education system, that will be the foundational pillar on which this great Bharat or this Viksit Bharat is built, and such coming together of individuals, of not-for-profits, I think adds tremendous value to that. I think the outcomes today will give a tremendous contribution to our. So in saying so, and again, conveying my many thanks to you all for organizing this wonderful function and for inviting me here. I wish you all the very best, and I hope and pray that we continue this good work and we ensure that our country continues to be at the forefront of leading the way in a uniquely Indian solution for India and perhaps even for the world in the days to come. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.